Hello, one and all, and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chat. My name is Mitch Pattinson, and as always, I'm joined by Ethan Duffy. And of course, today, after a bit of a break, of course, Carlton coming off the bye. This week, we are versing Hawthorn, Carlton v Hawthorn at the MCG round 16, Sunday, 2nd of July, 1:10 game. And as I said, at the MCG, as we've kind of spoken throughout the week, and of course, the past few weeks, this is a game that we just have to get done. But first things first, Duffy boy, how are you, mate?
I'm good. I think we're refreshed mentally after a week off watching Carlton. I think we were saying we wanted them, but I think it's probably good for our mental health to have a week off watching Carlton, the stresses and anxiety and thinking about all the different results that could possibly happen against any type of team because they're so unpredictable currently, the Blues. But the Hawks always, obviously we're confidently into this week, but I think in the past, especially when I was kind of younger, I was always worried about playing the Hawks. I know they used to be very, very good, but even after that, it was just like, there's always I don't know, I guess it was a little bit of a hoodoo for us to beat them. I think it took us 17 years to fucking beat them. I think Murphy beat him once or twice in his career. So, it's a big one, but it's an important one to just keep this momentum going and leading into harder games, of course.
Yeah, spot on. Especially with Hawthorn. Like last week, we saw them against Gold Coast, and we were like, they are pretty ordinary. But then they can go and beat like a Brisbane out of nowhere.
Yes.
Like, I know that Brisbane isn't overly great at the MCG, and that's probably that had a bit of a factor. But I think with Hawthorn, they're very much a rebuilding side. That even when we saw it, when we were in the start, like the early stages of our rebuild, we kind of play some really good games with really good football that would get the supporters excited. But then really terrible performances, and we'll just be like, no. So hopefully one of their worst performances are this week against us. But also we always expect our opposition to be good enough, and we just always expect to be better. But to touch on some players that might be coming back into the side through a test because there's some injuries that might be seen either in the VFL or some players in the AFL in the senior side. We don't know. But to just very quickly touch on Matt Cottrell, of course, the last game, he was suspended. So, of course, we didn't appeal it. So we just accept it, which I don't mind. I don't really want us always appealing calls. And even though it was probably a little bit stiff on Cottrell, it's good because we have a few names that we could bring back in, whether it's a Lockie O'Brien or a Jackson Binns. We have a few players that we can bring back in. And it's actually quite stiff on Ollie Hollands because, I mean, he's 4 weeks away with a collarbone. And as soon as he's back in, I reckon it's going to be very interesting to see who is going to get that game, whether it's going to be a Cottrell or a Hollands or whether both of them are going to play. But, of course, Matt Cottrell's going to miss this week, only one game. So, of course, Sam Durden, hamstring injury. That was the same, the last game that we had, our preview. He was a test. So we don't know. I don't think there's any chance he'll play senior football, but have a few games in the VFL, see how you go, and who knows, he might be seen in the senior side. Caleb Marchbank, soreness. Of course, this was he hasn't really played. He hasn't played any senior football at all this year, but of course, he's a test. Could be a chance to come back in. Knee. To, of course, Corey Durden, 2 to 3 weeks, which is good because that has actually sped up a little bit, 2 to 3 weeks. Because last time I checked, it was 4 to 6 weeks. So good to see him back running because we saw some photos as well on the Carlton Instagram page. And of course, as I just mentioned, Ollie Hollands, 4 weeks with a collarbone. But Daffy boy, out of those 4, and also some other players with maybe a Jack Carroll as well, who's also recovering from a hamstring injury, there's some pretty important names. Who do you think is probably the guy that you really would love to see back in the side?
Yeah, obviously, Connors is a big miss through suspension. I think he's been superb and is actually a really important component of our team. He isn't our best 22 for mine. I think his impact's big enough, clearly big enough. He kicked 2 goals, and I know there was plenty of goal kickers last weekend, but he tends to get on the scoreboard when he's playing well. But Marchbank, I guess Sam Durden, I think he'll struggle to get in the side now, considering Youngie's playing too. So that'll be an interesting watch. I think he'll just be that kind of depth player. You always need it. every team has it. It's just that kind of emergency break in case of emergency. Caleb Marchbank, obviously, it's frustrating with soreness, but yeah, it's going to be interesting come season's end, Pato. Do we give another chance or not? And then obviously Corey Birds, good to see him back soon. So I think he'll be in the side pretty soonish.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's actually kind of interesting with Corey Durden, because whether it's a Lockie Fogarty who might keep his spot, or whether it's because always also we would think that he's pretty much a lock for the best 22, but also Corey Durden, like, to me, like, I don't know about you, but to me, he's almost an absolute lock in the best 22. So, I mean, I don't really expect him to come back in the side straight away after a knee injury. I think I would almost like to see him kind of earn his right through the VFL to come back into the senior side. But I'll throw it straight back to you, mate. Potential inclusions. Who are you bringing in and who are you bringing out?
For me, I don't really see anyone droppable. I know you have someone dropped. I'll make sure I review my ins and outs after I hear yours. But obviously Cottrell out with the suspension and a straight swap with, and I've said it about 58 times. He's going to debut this week. If he doesn't debut this week, what's he going to make me look stupid? Jackson Binns will debut.
Yeah.
I think it's his time, really. There's no other wing options from the twos apart from LOB, which seems to be kind of on the outer currently.
Yeah.
So I think Binns comes in.
A quick question about Binns before I touch on my ins and outs. So the reason why I think it's so exciting for Binns, but also not so exciting for O'Brien, is you brought in a guy like Jackson Binns playing in the exact same role. You got Cotters and Hollands who are both in that exact same role. Lockie O'Brien last year was pretty much a lock for our wing position.
Yeah.
Come season's end, what do you think we do with Lockie O'Brien before we touch on our my ins and outs?
It's going to be hard because you probably got, obviously you got Akers as a wing, you got Cottrell, not LOB anymore, maybe Binns and then Holland. So you got four wingers really, and you've also got other guys that can kind of swing through there, I guess, in a sense, like Doherty and other guys. For me, I'd rather a guy stay there predominantly for the whole game and season, and you know who the wingers are. But I tend to see good teams have those consistent wingers, I guess.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think I'm pretty sure he's contracted though for next year. If I'm not wrong. So I don't think he'll be delisted. Well, I don't think he can really be delisted when he's contracted. But I think depends if a team wants him in the trade table.
Yeah.
If not, I think he'll be the club next year, and then see what happens from there.
So one more question about Lockie O'Brien, because you know how much I rate this guy. And he's really not getting an opportunity to really play because he hasn't lived up to his potential. That's just the harsh reality. With O'Brien, if he was out of contract at the end of the season, do you think he is in the position where we might actually choose to delist him if he didn't have a contract for next year?
Yeah, I think he probably would be.
Wow.
There's going to be this. You can't delist everyone. That's the thing right now. Like, you got probably 10 guys that we probably need to, maybe just ship off currently, but there's going to be some decisions made. We can say, Sam Philp, he's been unlucky with injury, and people say, I'll just delist him. But then you go, well, that guy should be delisted. Maybe we should give him a chance. So, and Marchbank as well. There's these names that it's not really based on skill level or form. It's more on like if their body's right. So there's kind of a mixed I guess, way of delisting players. Because then you look at David Cunningham, and I think he'll stay if he plays the majority of the year, the rest of the year out and well. I think he'll get a contract. But yeah, it's going to be interesting because you've got guys in the twos that, will they get delisted? Will Jack Carroll get delisted? Will guys like that get, it's going to be interesting. You got Zach Fishers who seem to be on the outer, but it's round 16 right now already. Round 16. We're here talking about delistings, which is soon. It's not very long because once that season's done, whenever it is done, delistings happen. So we do need to be talking about this stuff.
Yeah, spot on. Like, there's some names there that last year we were seeing as an absolute lock in our best 22, and now we're almost seeing it on the outer at the end of the season. So I'll very quickly just touch on my ins and outs. So I'll touch on with our outs, of course. So Matt Cottrell out. Mitch McGovern out. Mitch McGovern out. I'm just
You
about.
reckon?
I'm just.
You reckon? You
Yep.
reckon?
Yep. I
'Cause
reckon.
he's all right. I reckon he's all right against Goldie.
Well, yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it was against Gold Coast, and everyone played well against Gold Coast. And it's
Yeah.
not like he had an absolute shining light game. He didn't. And to be honest, he was probably one of our lower players. And this is not a hate on Mitch McGovern. I
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
expect him to be so much better because we both know how great he is. So I expect him
Yeah.
to be so much better. And I just would love to see him have a week or two in the VFL, dominate, absolutely dominate, and then earn your right to come back in the side. Because right now, I'm not seeing much pride and much, I guess, just gratefulness to go out there and play for the Navy Blue. I don't see it in him. That's just my opinion. So,
Okay.
of course, Jackson Binns, if he is an absolute lock, I would think. But also a player that we kind of touched on a bit this episode, which is quite interesting because I was gonna say something at the moment, but I was like, oh, I probably won't say it. Callum Marchbank.
Okay.
Marchbank,
Yep.
I think, comes back in because yes, he's been sore. Yes, he hasn't played a lot of VFL footy alone, but also senior footy, he hasn't played any this year. Just like David Cunningham, play him. Play him.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
unlikely that come season's end we're going to play finals. Unlikely. But it's also to save these guys' careers. Because who knows, with Marchbank, if he's playing VFL, why shouldn't he play senior football? Because
Yeah.
exact same conversation with David Cunningham. Why is he playing VFL when he should be in the seniors? And this is probably just because I see the best 22 and the players that should be in the best 22 a little bit differently to other people. To me, Caleb Marchbank is an absolute lock. And I think he's a little bit above a Mitch McGovern. And come season's end, we don't know what Mitch McGovern's going to do. My opinion is he's not going to be at the Carlton Football Club next year. So I think that's why Marchbank, I would rather him play and know that March is going to stay if we don't delist him. So it's just stuff like that where I would rather the guys that know that they are going to bleed blue and going to be there next year. I would rather play these players now. And if we lose, well. If he gets injured, well. But at least we know for next year, and at least we know come season's end, this guy isn't really his injury prone is too much, and we can't take a risk with him delisted. And who knows, we might re-rookie him. We don't know. That's obviously a conversation come seasons. And but one more question. So sub, who do you think your sub is?
I think it's going to be Paddy Dow, the super sub.
Yeah, completely agree. Super sub. What a nickname. All right, so we'll now move on to, of course, the backline, midfield, rucks, and forward line. We'll touch on each, I guess, line and area of the ground, and kind of speak on each and kind of comment on our opinions and what we think might happen. So, of course, as we always do, we touch on the backline first, our backline against Hawthorn's forward line. So, they do have quite a lot of tools. I mean, they've only got the 2 or 3, but even like a Nash might even go down there. And of course, they have the 2 ruckman playing. So, of course, our defenders up against Mitch Lewis, Kaczynski, and of course, Bruce. So I think with the 2 keys, I think they're quite young and they're up and coming. Mitch Lewis, I think, is an absolute star. I reckon he's going to be an absolute star in the next few years. But if not, he's right now an absolute lock in the best 22. But he's very much in terms of key forwards up and coming, he's very much up there. But of course, Kaczynski as well, I think he's quite solid. But of course, our absolute legend of the club, Luke Bruce, is also down there. So in terms of our defenders, with Brody Kemp playing, we expect, and Jacob Wiedering, who do you think goes to who? And of course, Bruce, who's going to take Luke Bruce? Wait.
You are right about Mitch Lewis, but I think Kaczynski and stuff like that. I'm not really phased about, not really worried about it. He's been dropped a couple of times this year, but yeah, I think with Lewis and Bruce, they know where the goals are. So if you give them a chance, they're not going to fail that opportunity and a lot of opportunities because we know with Bruce he's kicked up about 1,000 goals against us, I reckon. Over the years. So for Lewis, you probably go Weeders, I'd imagine, on Mitch Lewis for mine. Kaczynski maybe on a Brody Kemp, so he can kind of run off him a little bit. And then Bruce, it's kind of I guess I guess a flip of the coin or something like that. I guess with maybe you could probably rotate and you might go Chincotta or you might even go Doc if he's back there. Or it's so hard to pick it for me. I don't really it depends what they're thinking internally. Because I guess they have guys going forwards and other forwards as well. The Hawks like Dylan Moore, who's pretty handy as well. So yeah, I guess it's all our smalls can probably cover him in my opinion. But I wouldn't mind saying like a Chincotta because I thought his defensive work is quite good, especially on their small forwards.
Yeah, I agree. It's good that we have a few options down there to take that small forward. Because like even like a Tyler Brockman, he's another guy that's quite handy to have down there. But I think probably like a Sard in terms of speed, Brockman's probably their quickest forward, and I reckon Sard probably goes to him. But also you can almost put a Sard on Bruce, but that probably means that you want to have more of a lockdown defender, and I think one player has to go to Bruce. In my opinion, it's got to be Nick Newman. I think
Newman, yes, Nick Newman.
I think Newman is probably the guy that probably goes to Bruce. I think you would probably agree now, Duffy boy.
Yeah.
So yeah. Well, it's good that we have so many options now because even me, like I actually forgot, like even a Jordan Boyd, like I forgot about a Boyd as well. So
yeah, we've even got a $900,000 Zach Williams on the bench.
Yeah, mate. And who knows? We might even see a Dominic. And who knows? We might even see a Dominic Huey next week, Duffy boys. So we'll move down to the midfield. So as we do every single week, we touch on 3 midfielders from our end, 3 midfielders from their end. I think this is probably the 4th week in a row where we haven't changed our midfield names, which is good, which means that they're all performing. So Paddy Cripps, Sam Walsh, Adam Chera up against James Warple, John Newcomb, and the stand-in captain since Sicily is out, Dylan Moore. So last week he was actually the stand-in captain against Gold Coast, and I'm like, wow, I didn't even think he was a stand-in captain. But when you actually think about it, there's probably no one else that could really be that stand-in captain. So credit to him because like a good mate of ours, Noah Fisher, is really good mates with Dylan Moore. So shout out to Fish. But of course, I think it's good to see a guy like that. Because even on I think it was a Sunday Footy show, probably like 3 weeks ago, he actually spoke, and he did like an interview on the show, and he speaks really well. And just for a young leader, I don't know how old he is. I think he's probably like 22, 23. He's not old, but for a young leader, he is very Sam Mitchell-like. I don't know what it is, but he just speaks a lot like Sam Mitchell. And I'm like, yeah, this guy's going to be an absolute star in the future. And if not, he already is. So out of our 3 names from our end, and of course, 3 names from their end, who do you think is probably the one player that worries you the most out of Warple, Newcomb, and Moore? And maybe there is someone else like a Carl Amon who's on the wing. There's a few names there. They are quite young. There's not a lot of firepower and star power there. Don't want to jinx myself, but out of those names, and if there's anyone else in your mind, Duffy boy, who do you think is probably the worry from their end?
Yeah, I don't want to sound, up myself or whatever, because we're 15th right now. So, but no, you look at our names and you look at their names and go, gee, really, we should be putting up a midfield performance like we did against the Suns. In terms of that kind of clearance domination. But I feel like they've got some good clearance players. I think Warple and Newcomb are very good around the ball in terms of clearance numbers. But yeah, they I guess I reckon they lack just a little bit of polish in that midfield. And obviously over the next few years, they'll pick up some draft picks. I think they're like 1 or 2 or 3 maybe draft picks away from really starting to hit their straps and go towards September footy. I think they're progressing the right way.
Yeah.
Warple I think he was dropped at the back end of last year and didn't play many games. But this year he's kind of found his form a little bit more, which is good to see for Hawthorn fans. But yeah, Newcomb's handy. Obviously he's a mid-season draftee and, what is he? I think he's 21.
He's young, very young.
He's built like a Adonis. 21 years old, yeah. So he's currently my age and he's looking like he could eat me. But no, they look decent. But I think with Cripps, Walsh, and Chera, they really need to show their class again because they dominated a pretty decent Gold Coast midfield, in my opinion, and especially with their ruck with Wits, winning a lot of hitouts. But yeah, it'd be good. But I want to see domination, Pato.
Yeah. Completely agree. One more question before we move on to the rucks, and I just want your opinion on this. So, of course, right now George Hewitt is a name that
Yeah.
we haven't seen in the senior side. He played in the VFL. I think he got a bit of the ball, and of course he got 7 tackles as well. I don't know the exact stat of how many disposals he got, but I know that he got a lot of the ball. But also in terms of tackles, he got 7. So
Yeah.
he's obviously dominating in that sort of sense in the game. With him being out, because last year he was very much up there for our BNF. I mean, obviously Cripps won, but probably up there with maybe a Walsh or even a Charlie Curnow because he had an awesome season last year. He can't find his spot in the senior side. Do you see George Hewitt coming in if there are no injuries?
Well, no,
Probably not. Yeah.
probably not. Like I said, I think a couple of weeks ago, I think it's more. I think if Kennedy gets injured, even if Cripps has a week off, I think. But yeah, like you said, only through injury and maybe a form through Kennedy, he comes in. But yeah, it's a good problem to have, I think.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think he played a little bit of halfback at Sydney, but I don't think he played every week.
No.
I think he played a fair bit of footy, but he wasn't like a key player. But if he's in the twos, I'm sure if he's good enough, he'll force his way in. Whether we choose to in these predictions or not, I think he will force his way in. Because internally, I think he's rated pretty highly. So, it'll be interesting. I think he's on a 4-year deal, so we're not going to be talking about trades, or well, he could be talking about trades depending on what he wants to do. But, I think he'll stay at the club. And but yeah, it's interesting because I think we were just a bit one paced in the midfield. I think we're a little bit slow because obviously he's not particularly fast. Kennedy's not particularly fast. Cripps isn't super speed, and I think with Cunningham coming in, showed that different dynamic on last weekend against the Suns. I know it's a one-off thing, but you could tell the difference. There was something different about that midfield, a bit more pace going through it. So it's going to be tough for him to get in for line.
Yeah, I completely agree. Well said, Duffy boys. So now we'll move on now to, of course, the rucks. As we mentioned before, Hawthorn have 2 genuine rucks in Reeves and Lloyd Meek, of course, from the Fremantle Dockers. And, of course, from our end, Mark Pitnet and Tom DeConning, who played by far his best game last game against the Gold Coast Suns, in my opinion. So, of course, Mark Pitnet and Tom DeConning up against Reeves and Meek. What are your thoughts, Daffy boy?
Yeah, the 2 big boys for the Hawks. One's long like a pole, and one of them like that.
Yeah,
one's a fridge and one's a pole. But yeah, you look at them and you go, come on.
Yeah.
I think they both, they deserve respect. I think definitely Meek was way too good for the Freo twos, and obviously made his way to Hawthorn. He was dominating Peel Thunder or whatever the twos are for Freo last year, and obviously made his way over. But you look at the two of them and you go, gee, really impact with ball in hand is probably 0. Really, like Ned Reeves, really, he wouldn't be getting a game with Carlton right now. To be honest, I don't think so. I wouldn't have think so if he was on our list. And you look at Pito and Teddy Carr, I think they worked really well last week together. And Teddy K, if he just keeps getting that scoreboard pressure when he's up forward for mine, I think it's going to show why we really need him to stay. Obviously, we've got a $700,000 deal on the table for him, similar to Geelong. They've got the exact same offer. And obviously, season's end, it really depends on what he thinks is viable for him, because I think he's got a good offer at Sydney too. And obviously, the Saints are eyeing him as well. But I think he has to stay, Pato. I really can't. I don't think we can afford to lose him. Just in case we can't get that trade from someone else, whether it's a Sean Darcy or someone else from another club. So, but yeah, based on this matchup, they need to be winning this matchup, because I think they did really well against the Wits, who's probably a top 3 ruck in the competition.
Yeah. Shout out to Reeves, because I actually went to Yo Chi a couple of weeks ago in Brighton, and I actually saw Reeves with his missus, and oh my god, I walked past him, mate. Yeah. It's like I was looking up at the bloody Eureka Skydeck, mate. It was unbelievable. One more question about the rucks and to kind of base on Tom DeConning. So it seems like with Tom DeConning, he's very much a guy that won't move to a club for money. He's been brought up very well. He's had a lot of siblings around.
Yeah.
Like when he's been brought up, he has a lot of siblings. It just seems like he's a lot. His values aren't money. His values are more success and I guess just loyalty, like a little bit like that, and just I guess just come at the end of his career, he would want to be that guy that would look back at his career and be like, I did this, 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 rather than moving to a club and be like, yeah, I'm on this much money. And with Tom DeConnie, what is the most money that you would pay if you were, I guess, the club wanting him to stay? What is the most money that you would offer him to stay at the club? And it's up to him if he wants to stay in the navy blue and find a premiership, or he can move to another club. And he definitely would be after a premiership, of course, but he's built a home here at Carlton. He's built a lot of mates. He's obviously a cult figure where a lot of people around Carlton absolutely love him, us included. We rate this guy so highly. What is the most in terms of contract that you would offer Tom DeConnie come season's end?
Oh, I think I agree with Carlton. I think 700K.
Yeah.
Nothing more. Yeah, he hasn't shown me enough to increase that mark.
Yeah.
It's tough because, other clubs are offering more money and, props to him if he goes and, whatever happens, obviously would be frustrated. But yeah, I think 700 currently, maybe like a 2 or 3 year deal. Then obviously see how he goes after that contract and maybe increase it or whatever happens in 3 years. What is it? 2023, 2026. Jesus Christ. We're going to be starting, Bag of Shat's going to be turning fucking elderly by the time 2026. Well, kids and shit on the show.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
I think 700. What do you reckon? Because I don't think we need to be paying guys too much anymore.
I would almost say 700 is too much. And in terms of if clubs are coming at him and offering 800, 900, of course you need to lift your price a little bit. You're saying, like we were saying at the start of the season, 500, no more.
Yeah.
So 500, I think, is too low. I think 600. If I was the club, 600K. This is your offer.
Yeah, okay.
600 for 3. You stay with us. If you perform in the next 3 years, your contract goes up to 900 to $1 million. Because I'm willing. Because then in 3 years' time, our salary cap issues will be a lot.
Personally, I think we don't have issues. I think we've got plenty. No, because look, you go Gov. I heard on Twitter the other day is accepting a deal which is worth like little to nothing for 2 years.
Okay.
At Carlton.
Okay.
There's rumours about that.
Yeah.
Fisher goes out the door. There goes his contract. Jack Martin's on 250K a year currently. Which the good thing about our list manager, which has been fucking fantastic, is that all the deals have been front-ended when we don't need to bring in the guys. Yeah. So now, you look at apparently it's opening up. People say, there's issues. Apparently it's opening up. And that's, seriously can see us going for some sort, if we lose a TDK or if we sign him on, I still think we've got that currency to be able to look at guys outside. Whether it's, I'm not kind of sold on Gresham yet, to be honest. I just don't think he's the man. But I think there's guys, I talked about it the other day, which, Tom Papley's and stuff like that. You can bring them through the door if there is space. There is space in our salary because I know these guys are off. How many guys? We have 13 guys on contract pattern. There's plenty of space to go. And Gov was on 800. That brings in another 600K or 700K a year if he's on little to nothing. So it's promising. It is promising.
Yeah, but I don't think Mitch McGovern will. I know we're going a little bit off track here, but I think it's a good conversation to have. I don't think Mitch McGovern will take less than 700.
I think he will.
I think
he will. 100%. I personally think he's a good bloke, and I think I don't think he's going to be offered very much at other clubs either. To be honest, I think, would you rather take 300K a year at Carlton or get 500K at fucking West Coast?
Well, it's also that he's playing with his brother, and that's probably that's something we probably understand. We probably understand.
What is he playing for, Pato? They're shit.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, Harley Reid next year, they might be in the premiership contention.
Oh fuck! There's no way they will pick. They will take the pick one. No, no way. No
There's
way.
no
If
way.
they do that, they are the dumbest club ever because he'll walk out the door in 2 years and come to the Mighty Blues.
Yeah, spot on. Harley Reid, pleasure to see you next year in the Navy Blue 2024. So
that's another talking point, Pat.
Yeah, it is.
Another talking point.
But who knows? Like, we might actually be a little bit more active in the draft sense, not the trade, draft. Like, we might make those decisions.
Because I thought Cal Toomey from the AFL, he said we're in the top 4 clubs for both trade and draft period. Who will be the most? So that's promising.
Yeah.
Obviously considering this year, but we'll see the back end of the year. I think we need to pick up a few little pieces. But yeah, Harley Reid, not off the table. And I might have something going on Photoshop going up this Arvo.
Here we go. I'm excited for that. While I'll be pecking into my my lunch or in my early dinner, I'll be seeing where's the bag of show post from W Boy. All right. So now we'll get back a little bit more on track. Sorry about that, W Boy. So we'll now move on now to the forward line, of course. Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow up against Frost if he's playing as a defender. Last week he was playing as a forward. Not too sure about that. And of course, probably their best key forward by a country mile. Probably the best key forward in the game, Duffy Boy. What's his name? James Blake. I mean, we don't really know. We don't really want to talk him down, but he seems a little bit blank in there. I don't know. I know it's a little bit of wordplay, Duffy Boy. But this might come back to bite me in the bum because he might have 43 touches and 23 million intercept disposals. So we don't know. But Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow up against Blank and Frost. Bit blank in the head from Blake. What do you think, Duffy Boy?
Oh, Pato pulling out the dad jokes, the latter parts of the video. Love to see it. But yeah, I think he's another mid-season. Last year they picked him up mid-season through the Box Hill on a program. But yeah, Jesus Christ, Pato. Oh my God. We just got it's all about that. It's all about He's it's a good prospect to have.
Yeah.
It's all about that connection going forward again.
Yeah.
Because if that doesn't work, then you'll just see Blank and Frost go over the back and punch every time. So, be interesting watch, but get it done. Harry and Charlie, I want to see 8 goals between them.
Yeah. So out of these two, to kind of predict who will go to the key forwards, because I think Blank, he's quite tall as well. So I think with Frost and Blank, they're both pretty much the same kind of defender, but one of them has to go to Curnow. So I reckon Harry Mackay will kind of be sorted in that sense because they probably suit more with a Harry Mackay. But then you've got a Charlie Curnow who's very agile, and these kind of defenders, they don't seem as agile as Charlie Curnow. So if you were Sam Mitchell, who goes to who?
I think Frost goes to Curnow. I think he's got that pace. I guess he's got that aerial ability, I guess. In a sense, he's just a crazy footballer, Frost, because he could take mark of the year and then try and run the whole ground and then turn it over and the other team kicks a goal. So I actually watched it. Obviously, my old man's a D's fan. He used to be at the D's and he used to make these highlight plays down back and then by foot, he just turn it over. Yep. So that's kind of been the story of his career. And geez, he's had a 10-year fucking AFL career. Good on him. Seriously, good on him. Like making it this far, because I know a lot of better players that don't make it as far. But yeah, fingers crossed he is playing up forward, because then who the fuck is going to play on Mackay and Curnow without Sicily?
Yeah.
Jesus, it's a mouth-watering prospect. I think we need to get it done. Get it done, boys.
Yeah, well said. I mean, like as you said then, I think with James Sicily not playing, it's a massive, massive loss for them, because I think with him playing, they seem a little bit more structured.
Yeah, they
do. They just, I don't know. I think, especially last week against Gold Coast, they just seemed very lost and very lack of leaders around there. So, yeah, they were very, very bad. So we can't really use that performance. We want to use that performance as, I guess, what we should go off, but also, I don't know. So, okay, so we'll just very quickly just touch on some questions very quickly that we got last night. So we'll start off with, we'll probably keep it to 2 questions, David Boy. So of course, Noel Fisher, a good mate of ours, asked a good question last night, and it's what improvements should we be looking for post-buy? So, I mean, of course, he's a Sydney supporter, but I guess from a Carlton sense, what improvements should be seen after the bye?
Wow. I just want to see once again a good brand of footy, an attacking brand. I want to see them having fun out there like they did against the Gold Coast. Because when you're playing fun footy, it often leads to wins, in my opinion. You know, that kind of attacking football, you're going to get in, win or lose, win, lose or draw. I think I just want to see a good brand of footy, and you never know what happened. You know, we'll talk about it. You know, I copped it on TikTok about saying we're going to fucking beat Collingwood, But, you know, you get these wins, you know, keep banking on wins, you get confidence. And I think the shackles get released, which have been on most of the season. I think we've kind of been held down, haven't we, in all our games? Like we just don't have that X factor or confidence to really take it on. I feel like as the game went on against Gold Coast, you could kind of see that. And hopefully against Hawthorn, they, you know, continue with that, because that's how we win games of footy, Pato. That kind of, we've got the talent. Obviously, you've got to have the structure and the system, which I think we do. But just having that flair, adding a bit of flair and getting around each other, whether it's a smother, tackle, goal, whatever it is, you know, having a laugh, getting into the opposition, getting into the crowd, whatever makes them tick, I want to be seeing it.
Yeah. And it's now down to them trying to see what makes them, I guess, tick. Like whether it's in their pre-game and whether it's Michael White trying to just whatever makes them get hyped for the game. All individual players could be different. Like there could be one player in the corner in his zone, like has the headphones in his zone. He doesn't want anyone to talk to him. You've got another player in the other side hyping everyone up with the music and stuff. You've got another guy like an Ed Kerno playing with the tennis racket with the balls against the wall. Like seriously, like it's just genuinely, it is all down to what the individual. I know with me, I was always wanting to be hyped because I would want to get out and I'd be like walked out hyped, not in a zone, but all players are different. That's the thing. Yeah. So it really is an individual thing. And that's saying that the coaches can't really help because they can't treat everyone the same. Because especially in modern society, everyone's different. So everyone has their own, I guess, their way of getting themselves in the zone. So great question, Fisher. But of course, now we'll move on to Sam Crispino. I think I said that last name right, but we'll see. You can let me know if I said that right. And his question is actually really good, and this is actually a really good conversation. So, of course, it is, who is our leading small forward in the squad? So, I guess in terms of Owies, so, I mean, like he said, Owies, Durden, etc., but it could be Fisher, could be Motlop, could be Fogarty. Who else is in there? It could even be like a David Cunningham to a stretch if he is counted as a small forward. I don't think he is. But if there is a leader, if there is a player that is an absolute lock, if they're all playing well, it's a very tough question. It's a great question. Very tough question, though. Who do you think, if there was one leader down there? Because we used to have an Eddie Betts who was a leader. Absolutely. Yeah. But now it's kind of narrowed now to who is that small forward leader? If you were to name one name, Duff, who do you think?
Oh, I think we're struggling with small forwards currently. But, I think you got to go Owies, don't you? He's probably I think I personally think we need to go after another small forward in the kind of trade period, whether it's a Papley or whoever it is. I don't really care, but I just feel like we need something else in that forward line, a little bit more mature, because I think we're pretty young down there. Obviously, Durds and Motlop of what are they, 20 years old? I was close to a good mates, and then Owies is, what is he, 24, 25? So he's getting to that age, which is good to see. And I think Fogg needs to start playing more games of footy, in my opinion. Where the fuck has he been? Where has he been, Pato? Jesus Christ. I reckon there was about a month and a half solid where I reckon Motlop barely touched the ball. So, I know it's all about getting games into him, but it gets to a point where we've got to be getting wins at this stage of we're not in the rebuild anymore, man. We've got to be making changes, and they made the change and we win the game. So, funny that, isn't it? But, I think it's a good question to have, because it's tough, but I think obviously Owies is down there, but there's no really other players I think really could. It's tough. I don't think it's superb. But we'll see. Yeah.
It, like, just in terms of, I guess, every position, every area of the ground has their leader. Yeah. So, like, of course, in the back line, you could even say Jacob Wettering or even a Nick Newman to a stretch is down there as that leader. Midfield, you've got Cripps as obviously the leader, but you've also got a Chera and also the vice captain, Sam Walsh, as well. And of course, in the forward line, you got a Charlie Kerner or a Harry Mackay. But in terms of small forwards, it's actually a really good question. Because when you think about it, we talk about lack of leadership all the time. All the good sides, all areas of the ground, they have their own leaders. And we don't know, like, internally. We don't
there might be. I'd imagine there would be. There would be.
Yeah.
Looking from that side, how does it to actually pick it? But for me, I think it'd be Owies. I think. Just based on age as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the player has to be Owies, and even to a stretch, Fogarty. Really to a stretch. Coming from a Geelong-based system. And no, he's not really, that's the thing, he's not really based as a small forward. He can't get into the midfield, so he kind of has to play small forward. And that's why it's good to see him actually play in that role and to be able to change. But I think in terms of genuine leadership in that role, I think it has to be Matt Owie. So great question, Sam. But of course, now we'll move on to our last segment to very quickly wrap up the episode. So, of course, as every single week, we do best on ground, a point of difference, and winner plus margin. So it's so great to be doing these predictions again because, of course, last week we had a bit of a break because of the bye. But three of the segments, Staffy boy, give me your best on ground, point of difference, and winner plus margin.
Yeah, these are all from my head, by the way. But often every week, so I'll go through the episode, and sometimes, Pato might say something, or there might be a name drop. I'll go, gee, that might be the best on ground. But for me, I think the best on ground, I think he needs it. I think he needs a best on ground performance, and it's going to be Charlie Curnow. I think he needs it. He might be second on the, Coleman, but personally, I don't think he's had a good as year as last year. He's having a good year. I'm not saying nothing against him, but I think he needs that Charlie Curnow, 20 touches, 58 marks, and 6-7 goals on James Blank. So hopefully Charlie gets going. Point of difference. Now I'm going one more time. And Bossy, if you're listening, do not fuck me around, and you're going to pick Jackson Binns because this segment is going to go out the window if you don't pick him.
Yeah.
So Binns is my point of difference for the 7th week in a row. I reckon he'll be the point of difference. I think he's really good. I don't think he's just going to be one of those young, chuck it straight to the wolves kind of players. I think he's going to be having an impact on his side, especially with his ball usage, which has been superb. He's having 30 plus every week in the twos. So he's my point of difference. And winner plus margin, Carlton by 52.
52? All right.
Yep.
All right. Well, very, very interesting that. So now, best on ground. The reason why I reacted after you said Charlie Kerner went up on my hands on my head is because best on ground for me, Charlie Kerner. I mean, as the saying says, great minds think alike. So
yes, they do.
But I think I completely agree. I don't want to add too much because you said exactly, you took the words out of my mouth of what I was going to say. I don't think I need to add anything more. Charlie Kerner, best on ground. Point of difference, Alex Sincotta.
Okay,
now, I'm going to say this right now. Michael Voss in his press conference, everyone's confused me. You said Cincotta. People have said Cincotta. Vossi said Sincotta. I said Sincotta at the start of the year, and I'm like, what is going on, Dav? So he said Sincotta in his press conference, and I'm like, bro,
it's Chin. It's definitely Chin.
I don't know that. I actually don't know.
I'm pretty sure they said that on the thing. And I know the person whose last name is that last name, and it is Chin.
See, that's because I have a mate whose last name's Sincotta. It's so all right. Let's just I'll say Sin, you say Chin, then at the end of the season, instead of us training up players,
we'll get him on the show. We'll get him on the show, and we'll interview him, and that one question will be asked.
Yep. So 10 seconds, we will be on there, be like, hey Alex, how are you, mate? Is it Chin or Sin? Sin. All right, see you, mate. Thanks. All right. So, of course, I will say Cincotta for right now. So, of course, point of difference, Alex Cincotta. I think he's the player that really likes driving the ball forward, which I love to see. So, having him and Jordan Boyd with Zach Williams missing, I think it's really good to see. Him looks really, really comfortable at the senior level as well. So, I think Cincotta is going to have an absolute start. Well, hopefully, he's going to be the point of difference. And Winner pass margin, Carlton by 54 points.
Oh, thanks.
So I'm going a little bit more broad, and I just think that why can't it? It should. Seriously, it should. Like, my God. Like,
we're not disrespecting Hawthorn at all, but it's more on our own expectation right now. They just lost to a side by 68 points that we beat by 10 goals.
Yeah.
Obviously, we haven't seen enough from our side to warrant probably these tips, but realistically, if our expectations ever drop, then, you know, the performance on ground will drop. So got to keep them up high for now, unless we drop the game this week and then we I have to fucking fly over to Freo and watch Caleb Sarong have 58 touches.
So is that locked in that you're going to Fremantle?
It is locked in, mate.
That's awesome.
I've got a weekend off for footy, so I thought may as well make the trek up to the to WA and see how all those bogans are going.
Have you been? To Australia before?
Oh, when I was like little, when I was tiny.
Yeah. See, Optus Stadium, I reckon, is one of the great stadiums because, I mean, this is a bit off topic, but I'm going to Coldplay at the end of the year, and they'll be at Optus Stadium, so I can't wait for that. Yeah, absolutely can't wait for that. So, hopefully with that game, it's a game that we can kind of walk out with a 3-week, three wins in a row, build momentum for the big game against Port. And we don't want to think ahead. We always take it as week by week. We have to beat Hawthorn on the weekend, but next week, there's not a lot of people that kind of think that we can get the job done against Fremantle, but like, why not? Why can't we? That's the thing. As you said perfectly, expectations right now is at a sky high. We need to expect more from these players. They are not fulfilling their potential, and especially from last year, they need to do more. So that is, of course, the last segment for the episode. Always an absolute pleasure doing an episode every single week, twice a week, preview and reviews with you, Daffy Boy. But is there anything else you would like to touch on for the episode before we wrap it up?
Just get it done, boys. Hope to see a lot of people down at the MCG on Sunday. Hopefully it's a pretty good crowd.
And of course, it's the David Parkin. It's kind of like a celebration. I probably actually I won't say. I'll keep what I was going to say. I'll keep it. I won't actually speak it out on a podcast, so I'm not going to say that. But of course, it's great to have a celebration for David Parkin. I expect him to be there, of course. And of course, he's been a legend for both clubs. So credit to him. And hopefully, like as you said, I think it's going to be a big crowd. Hopefully all Blue Baggers, especially after last week's game against Gold Coast, just we see the supporters kind of show up, because that's the main thing. We always want to try and show up for these. I know it's hard, but we always want to try and show up for this Carlton Football Club. So make sure to all the viewers, if you're listening, of course, as we just said, make sure to get down there on Sunday, 1:10 p.m. at the MCG. And of course, with the podcast, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Make sure to also leave a comment with what you think about our opinions, and also if you think of any other opinions throughout the episode, make sure to leave a comment. We always try and respond to them, and we always make sure we try and acknowledge them. So we always try our best to engage with our audience, and also on our social platforms, make sure to share the love, make sure to leave a follow, and also message us any opinions with the show, what you think you might want to see heading into 2024 next year. So, as we said, make sure to like and subscribe on all the platforms we're on. And as always, to you, Daffy Boy, and to all the Blue Baggers out there, up the Baggers!